am Pocho Salcedo. Greetings to our viewers, content distributors, TV stations in Latin America, and those tuning in from coast to coast across the continental United States and Hawaii. Here in New York, we are ready to decode the stories that shape our world. This is not just the news, this is the DNA of the news. We usually see the issue of adoption from the point of view of the parents adopting. This episode explores the gripping autobiographical journey of Luda Merino, a young woman adopted from Russia and raised in Spain. Her book, No Lo Entenderías, You Wouldn't Understand, offers a raw and emotional exploration of identity abandonment and resilience, shedding light on the unique challenges faced by adoptees. Join us as Luda shares her powerful story, offering a deeply personal perspective on what it means to navigate life as an adopted child. Luda Merino, welcome to the DNA of the News.
Thank you for inviting me.
Luda Merino was born in Cachinevo, Russia, in 2001. She was adopted by a Spaniard mother when she was just 3 years old. Before her adoption, she spent several months in a hospital and the rest of the time in an orphanage in Siberia. This early experience deeply marked her life and has influenced her activism and writing about adoption. Luda has publicly shared how the trauma of her childhood and adolescence has impacted her life, and has used her experiences to help other adoptees and their families relate to and understand themselves better. In addition, she is the creator of the project Restoring Their Dignity, where she digitally restores and colors historical photographs of victims of fascism. Her recent book, You Wouldn't Understand, My Adoption Story, explores her personal experience with abandonment and the search for identity. Professionally, she is dedicated to art and graphic design. She studied a Bachelor of Arts in 3D animation at the University Center for Technology and Digital Art.
Luda, your story begins with your adoption from Russia to Spain. Can you share what inspired you to write the book and open up in such a personal way? This book reflects your emotional journey from childhood to adulthood and how adoption shaped your identity.
Well, I always tell the same things. I mean, I was born in Russia, most specifically in Siberia. And well, I was born in 2001, and when I was 3 years old, my mother, my adopted mother, took me from there to Spain, and I lived here since then. I live in Madrid, and I really wrote the book because I wanted other adoptees to know that there is people like them. I mean, I was quite different when I was a child. I had a different life, let's say it. The book, they told me to write it, but when I had to do it, I thought about that. I thought about when I was 15 years old, and I wanted to read about other adoption stories, because every book that I had in my hands was about the parents' story or about others' story, and I wanted to read about others' adoptees, and I wanted to write something that my little Luda, my little me of when I was 15 years old, could read and say, "Oh, this is what happens to me. This is I feel like this."
Well, this is a quite penetrating and interesting book. And in one of your parts of the book, you write, "For as long as I can remember, I have felt profoundly different from others. The sentiment captures the alienation many adoptees feel, even in loving families." Could you please elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, when I came to Spain, my mother noticed that I wasn't like a real little kid of 3 years old. She noticed that I didn't feel any pain. I mean, physical pain. I got hurt and I didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't even make weird faces of pain. I wanted to hug everyone. And when I mean everyone, I mean every stranger in the street. So that was like quite uncommon, let's say it. I didn't eat anything. My mother thought I was going to die because of hunger. So it's not that I felt different; it's that I was different. I mean, I actually had different things. I felt that everyone could abandon me. I felt that I needed to hug everyone, for example, no, and that's not normal. So, well, yeah, I felt different because I was different.
You reflect on how abandonment shaped your worldview. You wrote in Spanish, el abandono deja una marca invisible pero imborrable. Abandonment leaves an invisible but indelible mark. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's like a very basic thing if you try to like understand it, but it's quite impossible to understand how do you feel it because it's so intense. It's very simple because that's caused because your mother abandoned you when you were just a baby, a newborn. But it's so different. How do you feel it? I mean, you feel that everyone will abandon you. You feel that anyone wants to be with you. I mean, you can have something scheduled to say with a friend. Let's go to the park. Let's go somewhere. And then that friend calls you and say, I can't because I have something. I have an appointment. I can't be with you. And you feel so bad. You feel like anyone loves you. You feel that, oh, this person just left because he or she doesn't want to be with me because I have something that makes that every other people don't like me. You feel it like that. And when you are in a school and you have to make groups and anyone wants to be with you, that's so intense. That's so horrible. I mean, it's something that I don't want anyone to feel. And it's something that I felt every time in my life because it's so common. I mean, even today when I'm an adult and I understand that people sometimes can't be with you or something, I still feel it. I mean, I have a friend who is always late to every place where I am with him. And I sometimes tell him, okay, let's go here. And he's late. And the first time that happened, even when I was an adult, I felt so bad because you feel like, oh, this person comes late because I'm not so important to him. He just leave and don't want to be with me. He won't come. I mean, you feel everything bad. So it's quite easy to understand why that happens, but it's so painful to feel it. I mean, wow, I hate it. It's the most thing that I hate about adoption, I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. And you describe in your book with such clarity this concept of disassociation of pain and how you experience it and lived through in your childhood and all the way to your for many years. Could you unpack this for us so we can understand what disassociation of pain is? We don't hear that often.
It's like the brain feels different things that the body feels. Let's say like that. You disconnect. I mean, your head disconnects from what's happening inside or outside or whatever. There are like many types. I mean, some people feel like they are in third person, or some people don't feel anything at all, or some people, I mean, there are like different ways of feeling it. And mine, it's quite an often one because it's one that is more common for adoptees. When I came to Spain, my mother noticed that I didn't feel any pain. I mean, I could hurt myself, something. I mean, I fell down the stairs and I said, oh, I am all right. And I was like with a face of a poker face of feeling nothing. And my mother was like, okay, this is weird. So, for example, the first times it was so mechanical. I mean, it just happened. Then when it was around 9, 10 years, I think, I could hit myself and feel something for some seconds, and then I disconnected. And then when I was around 12, 13 years old, I mean, that was just a couple of years, I could like turn it on or off whenever I wanted. I mean, I hurted myself and I said, okay, I don't want to feel any pain. I just disconnect and don't feel it. And when I was 15 years old, I just lost it. I mean, now I do feel pain, killing people in the world, and I'm normal. I don't feel it so intense, but I feel it. I mean, I am normal now.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, and that doesn't just happen with pain, but also we disassociate in many ways, even from bad memories, etc. So, thank you very much for touching that. In this last few minutes we have in this segment, would you be kind enough to unpack your thoughts on what are the biggest misconceptions about adoption and the challenges of adopted children face?
There are like many myths because people normally tend to think what they see in movies, and it's very like weird when you go to them and they ask you very weird questions. For example, people think that the DNA is everything. I mean, if you don't have the DNA of your parents, you are not their children. And it's like, no, this is not like this. I mean, I know adopted children that their parents told him, "Oh, I thought this before I adopted you, and then when you came to our family and when you became one of our family, I stopped like thinking this because it doesn't make any sense." No, for example. Then, for example, other people think that you have to be like a millionaire or something to adopt when they actually just ask you to have like a stable life, let's say to have money and work or something normal. I mean, a house, whatever you need to grow up a child. I mean, nothing weird. For example, when my mother adopted me, even the house wasn't still hers. I mean, she just started to pay it, for example, no? And the worst thing maybe is when people don't know you and they start like asking awkward questions. I mean, they ask you whatever they want and they expect you to tell them everything, even if you don't know them. Because, for example, I mean, I come here, I want to tell my story, but others don't want. I mean, or maybe they don't want in that moment. Maybe I am talking with a stranger and they say, "Oh, your name, where does it come from?" And I say, "Oh, my name is a Russian name because it's Luda, which comes from Ludmila, which is a Russian name." And then they start, "Oh, and what happened?" And I say, "Oh, I am adopted," because I have to clarify that I am Spanish, but I am adopted from Russia. And then they start, "And what happened to your real parents?" And it's like, my mother is real. I mean, it's nothing weird. I just called her the biological mother or my biological family, whatever you want. But I mean, my family, my real family of here, they are real. And I mean, that's not like something that maybe I want to answer you in this moment. I mean, I don't want to talk about adoption every time in my life, no? People just tend to ask without trying to figure out if you want or if you don't want to talk about it. And they make stupid jokes. I mean, to me about Russia or to Chinese people from China or whatever they want. No?
Well, actually, one of the things that I found interesting in the book was the fact that you were surprised when you went to visit families in the beginning, and there was a man in the family, a father, because your family does not have a dad. So you found that pretty strange.
Yeah, when I was a child, I mean, my normal family, it's my family. I mean, that's a family for me. And my family, it's my mother and my aunt. And then I have many aunts and some uncles and whatever. But I don't have a father because my mother never got married. So I never had a father. So when I went to others' houses and I saw a father, I was thinking like, oh, you come from the womb of that mother and you are like a mix of them because they had you. And it's like, that's not how happened in my case. And for example, with the grandparents, it was so funny because, for example, I was talking about my grandmother and they told you, your father's grandmother or your mother's grandmother? And I was like, what? I only have one grandmother? Or where does the other grandparents come? Because I was a child and I didn't understand, no? And it was so funny because my normal family was my family.
Right. Well, I much appreciate it. This dialogue. We'll be right back, and we'll be talking more with Luda. She's joining us from Madrid, Spain. We'll be right back. And we are back with Luda Merino. She's joining us from Madrid, Spain. Luda, thank you very much for giving us all this time to explore very interesting aspects about adoption. And I've seen you participating in a number of television shows, on radio, online discussions about adoption. How has sharing your story publicly impacted you personally and professionally?
Well, I mean, I never thought about doing this. I mean, this just started because I think it was 2022. I think it was. I did like a thread in Twitter, well, X or Twitter, formerly Twitter, and I wanted to speak about that thing of I didn't feel any pain on that, and people just started to give me likes and retweets and everything, and I had like 5 million views or something like that, and people started to contact me from televisions, from radios, from other parents, from wherever, and there's something that impacted me so deeply, that is I didn't know so many people had the dissociation. I mean, I thought that was something uncommon, because I only saw it in a book, in a very thin line, or a single line in a book, and in a website. And it was only one website. In fact, if you try to find it in Spanish, I mean, and you put dissociation, pain, adoptees, you find that every single article, it's because I told it in Twitter and people started to make me interviews. And there's only one web that is before that. And it's the web that I saw when I wanted to know what happened to me, no? And because of that, I thought, well, this is something so uncommon. I had a very big bad luck, and this happened to me. But no, I mean, when I posted that thread, many people started to come to me to tell me that their children or someone they met or something, they already had it. I mean, for example, a parent who tells me, "Oh, my baby is only 1 year old and she burned his head or something, and he didn't cry, he didn't do anything. He just started to look to the window or something like that." No, and I was like, "Wow! I mean, this is more common than I thought." No. And other people, for example, one man contacted me to tell me, I am 30 years old and I still have it. And when I was young, I dedicated my life to punch me with other people and I didn't feel any pain. And that was so like, wow, I mean, there's more people with this. So that was so wow for me. I didn't expect to hear so many stories about it. It's so that caused me a lot of impact, because it's so it's actually dangerous, because if a baby doesn't cry, or a little kid doesn't tell you that he hurted himself, it can be so dangerous. I mean, so that was so weird for me, and so wow, I didn't expect that.
Yours is also one of the few books, at least in Spanish, that talks about adoption fully from the point of view of the adoptee. And so, what do you hope readers, especially adopted parents and adoptees, take away from your book?
Well, I wanted to write what happened to me so that others can, I mean, learn from my story. I mean, in my story, there is no everything's right or everything is wrong. I mean, some things were so wrong, like, for example, in the school, that teachers didn't know anything when I arrived. But there are some light points. I mean, my mother did it so well. I mean, she told me my story from the beginning. She told me, I mean, I've always known that I'm adopted, and that was so good for me for trying to understand myself, no? And that's something that my mother did so well that I want others to see and to tell, oh, this is a good way to do it, for example, no? So I just want to others to know my story, and from that they can take whatever they want or whatever they can for their families, for the people that they know, to say, oh, this is what I felt, or for example, and then for adoptees, I just want them to know that there is other people like them. So, like I said in the beginning, I mean, I'm not so weird because of yes, I'm weird. It's just because this happened to me, and this is more common, and there's people like me.
Thank you. Tell us, if you would please, a little bit about what happened in Spain in the generation of the 1990s, early 2000s. There was like a boom of adoptions in Spain. Why did that happen in that period of time, and what generated that boom of adoption?
I really don't know why that happened. I mean, I just know that there is like the adoption boom that was in like the 90s or 2000s, and then it stopped suddenly. I don't know why. It's just that every adopted that I knew from a lot of moments, they are always from that years, and I don't know what happened in that years. Really, I mean, just people just wanted to adopt suddenly. I don't know what happened. I mean, because now I know adoptees, and I know adoptees from other years, but I mean, we are so many people from those years. I mean, I don't know what happens there in Spain.
Uh, you mentioned also that people give a lot of importance to genes, but in your opinion, genes don't have that much weight, and that is one of your strong statements, that genes are not fundamental to bonding, to having a father, to having a mother. Tell us a little bit about that, because you face that issue all the time.
Yeah, people tend to think that if you don't have the DNA, you are in the family, and it's like, no, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with the reality. I mean, and there are some adoption parents that thought that until they had their children, and then they said, okay, this was so stupid. I mean, why did I think about this? No, my genes doesn't have anything special. I mean, with anything, I mean anything. I'm just a normal girl, and my mother is a normal woman. I mean, she doesn't have anything that she wants me to have. I mean, oh, I have something so special in the blood. Imagine that combats diseases, and I want my children to have that. I mean, no, she's normal. I'm normal. My DNA doesn't have anything special. It's just that people tend to think that that makes families, and families are made that from people that live together. That's so simple. I mean, you make the bond with. In my case, I came here, I made the bond, and from that time, my mother is my mother. I don't even question it. I mean, I never say, oh, is really my mother, my mother? I mean, no. I mean, in my life, she is. I know that there was another woman, which is my biological mother, but she is not my mother. She's just the woman who gave me birth. She is not anything else, and I know that. And that's important because my family is my family. It's the people who live with me.
Here on the screen, you're able to see the book that she wrote in Spanish, and she's all over the platforms. There are many opportunities in which she's presenting her case, talking about her experience. But looking forward, are you planning to do something in English, just to explore that part of the society? And I'm sure you will find people like you from different places around the world.
Well, it would be great. I mean, if I could. But the thing is that, for example, the translation of the book is not something that I can ask them to do the editorial. It's up to them. And as long as I know it's not up to them exactly, because then there are like different parts of the editorial. Some of them are in this country and other parties in this country, so they don't have like the complete control of that. I don't think they are going to translate my book, which is so sad. But I think that's the reality. If they did it, I mean, all right, I don't mind. I do English interviews, I don't mind. But well, for the moment, I don't have anything like in my head to do. Maybe one day I open an English profile and I start to speak about that in English and in my threads and in my Twitter. But right now, I don't have anything like planned.
All right. What is the one thing that we should keep in our heads as we finish this conversation that you would like the audience to remember about adoption? That's the one message that you really want to imprint in our minds.
If you know some adoptees, don't ask whatever you just come up at the first time and without knowing the person. I mean, mostly of the people just don't want to speak about that at that moment, maybe. Or, I mean, you don't know them. I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, wait to know if that person is open to speak about that. Maybe she doesn't want, or he doesn't want at that moment, or he doesn't want at all. I mean, I know people that they don't want to talk about adoption. They don't want to talk about their biological family. They don't want to talk about how they came. They don't want to talk anything about that. Their life is what that happened to them in their actual country, and they don't want to know everything about what happened before. And there's people like that. So I mean, it's up to the people to respect it, and that's all. Yeah.
Luda, it's been really a pleasure and an honor to get to meet you. I wish you so much success in this crusade that you are advancing on behalf of adoption. And more than anything else, I really celebrate you being so transparent, so forward in telling your story, because you know that at one point or another, somebody will be able to connect with some of the feelings or with some of the statements that you have made. Thank you very much, and I hope to have you back sometime soon and telling us about some other projects that you have in your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to understand what is at the core of the news. Stay curious, stay informed. Until next time, see you in our next edition.